Thank you, Kim. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to introduce our first keynote of the day, Molly Battin. Molly is the Vice President of Global Brand Marketing for Delta Airlines. And we're going to talk about something interesting today. While 2020 rocked the world, as we all know, in many ways that we could have never imagined, it also provided an opportunity for brands and advertisers to be, and any company really, to be nimble and adapt to the ever-changing environment. And in a very extraordinary year for airlines, Delta really stood out for taking the customer first technology-led approach. So here today, Molly will share how Delta's thinking about the future of travel, the customer experience, and the role that out-of-home advertising will play for the brand in a post-COVID world. So warm welcome, Molly. Welcome to our conference.
Hey, Anna, nice to see you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Yeah, so do I. I think it's you have a really great story. We've had a great prep call, and I know that this is going to be a fantastic session. So I'm going to dive right in and get going on it. So when COVID-19 hit at the start of last year, the travel industry immediately felt its impact, as did the out-of-home industry. But as the pandemic slowed travel, you at Delta, you really used the opportunity to pull back to move forward. So how did the pandemic provide you at Delta with a sort of once in a century chance to advance your fleet's technology and elevate the customer experience?
Yeah, no, and it's a great question. It's been an interesting year for sure. It's been a journey. And, at the beginning of the pandemic, Ed Battin, our CEO, really said we need to focus on three key priorities to get us through. We need to focus on our customers and our people. Keeping them safe was number one priority. Secondly was manage cash, to make sure that we're kind of taking all the costs out of the system. But the third was look to rebuild the future. And I think that's really been a big differentiator for us. We have looked as we've come through this, not to build back the airline as it was, but to really pull forward the future. So we have looked at every aspect of our business and really reimagined it with the customer at the center and taken every opportunity to really pull forward a lot of the things that we had laid out in 2019 as long-term goals, and how can we pull them forward? So we took the opportunity when travelers were not in the airports to accelerate some of our airport renovation projects in LAX and some of our key hubs and like in Salt Lake City. So we've moved forward construction projects that would have taken years that are now going to be ready much sooner because we took that opportunity. We've pulled down the fleet as well. So as we were not flying as many planes, we took the opportunity to kind of refresh the fleet and take out some of the older models so that we could kind of have a newer modernized fleet. And we also advanced some of the work that we were doing on this vision of a connected cabin. So one of the things that we believe is that when you get into a Delta plane, we know that one of the most challenging things and the common thing across travelers when they travel is stress. We actually did a stress test a few years ago where we actually put heart rate monitors on customers, and we saw that their elevated levels of kind of stress as they sat down before takeoff. And in fact, we didn't see stress come down until after that drink cart goes by. So we wanted to think about how can we use our in-flight experience to really help eliminate stress or take some of the stress out of the travel experience. So that is through our in-flight entertainment systems. We've just recently partnered with a new internet provider, Wi-Fi with Viasat, and we're launching that in the next few days on our first flight, which will have much higher speed connectivity. So we're really excited about that. Again, another way for people to kind of get away and escape. And it's interesting because as we think about eliminating stress or trying to take the stress out of travel, a lot of that we use through our internal channels and our out of home because we use that to help educate and give people the right message at the right time when they need it to help them kind of navigate the travel journey and the whole travel ribbon. So they're a key component in our kind of customer communication platform as we think about making sure people feel comfortable and they know what to expect when they're traveling and getting them the right message at the right spot throughout their entire travel journey. And it's been interesting because I would say pre-COVID, we used that messaging in different ways and it was more inspiration. And now what we found was as people were traveling, doing during the pandemic, we needed to give them vital information that they didn't know before. So it became an education message, whereas prior to the pandemic, we never had to educate our customers. They were, frequent flyers, many corporate, premium, they were road warriors, right? But when you came back, travel looked different with masks, with different requirements. We had to educate people on air filtration, on our safety procedures, on all of our layers of protection, everything that we were doing to keep them safe. Everything from cleaning, our partnerships with Mayo and Lysol, and Emory Healthcare, and all the procedures that we changed. And so a lot of that was our pre-flight communication, but also our out-of-home and our internal channels messaging. It really turned into an education vehicle for us.
I mean, I find this so fascinating how you made the most of a terrible time, and how, well, not just Delta, but how a lot of companies just pivoted, and probably for that reason will come out of this crisis in many ways better.
Yeah.
I find it so fascinating, and there's definitely silver lining in this horrible situation that we've been in.
I agree. It's one thing just really interesting. I'm relatively new to Delta, so I joined in November. So best of times to worst of times in like 4 months. But it was fascinating for me to sit in and join our consumer experience team and see that team completely just transform. They put in over 170 different steps that we didn't have before, all around layers of protection, keeping our customers safe, keeping our employees safe, and seeing that team just innovate from the inside out. It was just fascinating. And then the global cleanliness team that we put in place at the beginning will stay on. So we're not changing anything that we put in place. They will live on after us and make us a better airline. And we put in place a global clean ambassadors who now check on everything that we're doing. So flying now is a wonderful experience because of all the attention to detail that the team's been able to do. So it's been quite the journey.
Yeah, again, first of all, I joined 5 months before the pandemic, so I can completely relate to that and the changes that we had to make. And I think we as an industry also have adapted, but this is really quite outstanding. The journey that you've been on, and I'm looking forward to flying Delta and checking out all the changes. I want to come back a little bit to the narrative. I think 2020 was just like a remarkable year in so many ways. And there were not just a pandemic, there were a number of global crises and issues that we were all faced with that I think forced us to change the narrative in general and the messaging with our audiences. And I think for you as well, I think you talked a little bit about how you changed your messaging to travelers and just making the travel experience feel safer and better. But if you could talk a little bit more about how you thought about that. And then I really want to hear about how you're thinking about it today as we all, now are looking forward to returning to the skies, flying for summer. We've been vaccinated. We can see our loved ones again. It's just a very positive time that I think we all have in front of us. And how are you thinking about that as you're evolving your narrative with your customers and potential customers?
That's great. Yeah, Anna, no, it's really exciting as we start seeing people get out into the market and really book their travel. So it's really exciting right now. But to back up, back in March, as we were seeing kind of the world shut down, we really kind of put the airline to sleep. And then we had to figure out how do we communicate with our customers in really meaningful ways and break through so they understood really all the different things and all the different layers of protection that we were putting in place to keep them safe and our employees safe. As if they needed to travel, we were here for them. And so it's interesting, what we did was pre-pandemic, you would get maybe 1, maybe 2 pre-flight emails from us, just kind of reminding you of your flight. It's time to check in. I think we're up to 5 now, and it's all around, here's all the things that we're doing. Now as travel restrictions are changing, here's everything you need. You must have a COVID test before you travel. You must have it in this form. So there's lots of education that goes on. And as I said earlier, we used to never have to really educate our customer, but now it's all about education, informing, and trying to bring some simplicity into this very complex travel, process these days. And so upped our pre-flight communication. We started using a lot more SMS and text messaging. So before you got on the flight, you knew the flight had been inspected and sanitized and electrostatic sprayed. So it was kind of reassurances along the way. We also used Ed, who I think came through this as very much of a leader, not only of the travel industry, but in my opinion, of kind of CEOs of how to communicate to our employees and our customers. And so we started having frequent messages from Ed, Battin, our CEO, to our SkyMiles members, keeping them updated on all the things that we were doing to keep them safe. And we actually created a brand around the Delta Care Standard, which is everything that we were doing in the consumer experience space around, food and beverage, around cleaning and spraying, around air filtration, around policy changes, anything that had to do with your travel experience. We created it under this brand so that our customers and our employees understood this is the standard by which we are going to do everything, and we're going to go above and beyond, and we're going to keep that post-pandemic. So really shifted from travel inspiration to travel education. And now as we're coming out and we're seeing kind of the world open up, vaccine rates continue to grow in the United States, and this hopefulness, we're really excited because we started to transition. We had been the only carrier to keep blocking the middle seat. And we made the decision the end of March that starting May 1, we're going to open up the middle seat because science is telling us that we can, and our customers are telling us that there's demand, and we're seeing this kind of huge demand out there. And so we need to open up that capacity. So we are shifting now to very much of it's time to go out and connect, and much more of a direct message. Whereas in the past, we had kind of said, when you're ready to travel, we're ready for you. Now we're saying, go reconnect with loved ones, reconnect with more, enjoy the travel, the joys of traveling, and inspiring messaging. So it's really that shift from letting people know what we've been doing to now encouraging and pushing travel and actually kind of being much more forward-leaning in our messaging. So that's happened over the past kind of 3 weeks as we're seeing demand pick up. And so that's really exciting. So we're starting to talk about a lot of the new routes that are opening up. In fact, just this morning, as we talk about out of home, we have some really great out of home placements here in Atlanta that we use, our digital billboards. And as different routes open up. So we just added an Atlanta to Athens route, and that will be on our digital billboard. So it's a great way for us to real time signal to our key markets what new routes are opening up and really directly encourage them to do that. So it's a great example of how out of home is really helping us be nimble and flexible in this time as we now start to encourage travel.
Yeah, well, I certainly look forward to doing that. As I said before, and with that, I want to kind of switch into a little bit more out of home specific, and how you are thinking about that, not just from a pandemic perspective, but airlines, and your industry has long leveraged out of home advertising as an opportunity to both reach travelers as they head into the airport, but also making their way to the gate. So it's a great place, right, to work with out of home. How's Delta thinking about your out of home advertising strategy in and around airports? And then also during the prep call, I know we talked about what you did throughout the pandemic, where you were communicating actually to your employees through out of home advertising. If you could talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We found really creative ways to use it. So as you said, it's a really key piece of our media mix, right? It really helps us with wayfinding. It helps us through the airport experience. It helps us as people arrive to the airport. So awareness. So not only is it awareness generating, but as I said, we also use the digital boards to switch up messaging so that we can really focus in on key messages that we want to deliver, whether it's, Greece is open, book a flight message, or if it's something more along the lines of our travel tool is live on delta.com. So it helps us with kind of a great kind of mix of messaging. And we can also be really thoughtful and creative in real time, changing it up if we need to. And one example that we were talking about was Delta historically has given away profit sharing, and we've done profit sharing day in February to our employees. Well, unfortunately, with 2020, we didn't have any profits to share. So we switched that to an Employee Appreciation Day event, and we really celebrated all the things that our employees did. I mean, our employees are our brand. They show up every day. They care for our passengers. They are the heart and soul of what makes Delta difference. And we needed to celebrate them in a really meaningful way. And so one of the things we did was we took all of our digital out-of-home boards and we dedicated them to our employees for that day when we had our employee dedication day. And we've never done that before. So as they were driving into the airport or into the office or just out and about, they could see that they were the center for us today. So it's really, I thought it was a fun, creative way for us to use, a normally customer-facing vehicle for us, but turn it inward to the people that really make us who we are on a daily basis.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so I want to talk a little bit more about digital out of home and how digital out of home actually can provide you with the opportunity to be much more targeted in the moment and use data in a different way. I want to hear a little bit sort of outside of the examples that you've given here, like how Delta has leveraged digital out of home specifically to be more creative and personalized, and also how you have it work in tandem with other media channels.
Yeah, no, we think about it very holistically. I mean, I think it's really that full kind of media mix, and it complements everything that we're doing. And, it helps us with kind of the full funnel marketing our approach, as you will. So while we definitely have shifted dollars from some of the larger traditional media mixes to be very targeted in digital, we also love the reach and the exposure that out of home gives us, as well as kind of with digital out of home, to your point, being more targeted, being more real time, and being location based is a real kind of great blend for us. We're doing a lot in specific markets in some of our coastal hubs, and out of home is a great way for us to build visibility and awareness and brand awareness for the network. And then we can go in and support that with digital promotion, fare sales, and kind of real targeted opportunities with our loyalty programs. So we're seeing that kind of blended media mix work really well for us.
That's great. That's great to hear. And I hope that more marketers take advantage of the capabilities that exist in digital out of home that really are quite unique, and not just as a standalone, but also when you're marrying it with other types of channels. So it's really interesting to hear, and I'm sure the audience likes that too. Hopefully both advertisers and out of home companies. Want to kind of close out to just ask you a little bit about the future. So as we're thinking about the future of travel, coming out of this time that has been difficult, but also changed us a lot, where do you see the biggest challenges and where do you see the biggest opportunities, and how can the out-of-home industry partner with you at Delta and other advertisers to help tackle those challenges?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, I think we're very excited to see, the travel coming back, and there seems to be this pent up demand, and people are excited to get back out into the world. We're seeing more leisure travel come back quicker, and corporate travel I think is going to be a follower. Hopefully this fall, as more businesses open back up and start getting back into the office and vaccines are rolling out. So that's an area where, we're really hoping will start coming back, and then international as well. So really exciting news over the weekend with news around the European Union saying they're going to open up for vaccinated travelers to come in this summer. So we think that's really exciting and a big opportunity. So, I think it's getting out there and telling the story. A lot of people don't know, where they can travel right now or what the requirements are. So that's a big hurdle. As wherever you go, you might need to show your vaccine card, or you might need to have a COVID test, or how do I travel with kids if they're not vaccinated? What do I need to do? How do we think about family travel? So I think there's still a lot of education that needs to take place. And so we're really thinking through, how do we bring as much simplicity to this complex process, as well as it's changing so frequently. So every day another country opens up or another restriction happens or something. So how do we make sure that we're using all of our medium and all of the messaging that's at our fingertips to really help simplify this for the traveler? As I go back to, the early days, stress in the past was there, but it was a different source of stress. Now it's like stress around, do I have the right documentation? Am I going to be safe when I travel? When I get where I need to get to, am I going to be able to go? Will things be open? Can I go out to dinner when I get to Greece? Are restaurants open? So how do we help bring that information and package it in a more simplified way is a real goal for us.
Well, I certainly hope that we can help with that as an industry. We intend to. Airports are a big part of our world as well, and we are certainly excited that things are starting to return to normal. This was just such an inspiring conversation, not just hearing for you as a very savvy marketer, but also hearing about Delta and how the world is returning. I certainly plan on taking advantage of that. So huge thank you, Molly, and see you up there.
Anna, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.